Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Max, and in today's video, I wanted to take some time to talk about the Skull Merchant prior to her release. I know a lot of people aren't super interested in her. They think she's kind of, dead in the water, dead on release, and I understand the sentiment for it, but as someone who is willingly optimistic about the new character, I figured that I would try to begin to break down what I think would be one of the better things that she can do. In terms of like builds and add-ons, I'll try to keep the video short because admittedly, I think a lot of the add-ons here are not really relevant. And like different play styles that could be implemented, which as it stands right now, her play style heavily supports the whole like 3-gen controlling, which is getting nerfed because Eruption is getting nerfed. But I think that still probably is close to core being one of her strongest builds. And in this case, I wanted to just really quickly glance over a couple highlight add-ons and possibly just some perk ideas to bounce off you guys and give it the weekend for people to respond, think about, and hopefully if you guys are interested, leave a comment down below, like what are possible ideas if you're going to pick her up. Like, what do you think you would try? What have you seen work for her? So that's basically it. Really quick, I'll just start in general with like perk playstyle stuff. When I was playing her and I've watched videos of her being used to some success, the 3-gen playstyle without a doubt was very strong. With the nerf to Eruption no longer giving you incapacitated and no longer working on total generator progression but current, similar to how like Pop the Weasel got nerfed, my true feeling is that it's probably not going to be used. Like Eruption won't be used and the 3-gen playstyle will be a little bit weaker. I think just because the Knight has lethality with his zoning, it's probably still viable on him to a certain degree, but the Skull Merchant feels relatively weak when it comes to doing 3-gen stuff like that. So I'm not too sure if that's going to be the best playstyle for her anymore, but kind of will be interesting to see how that plays out. I've personally had success with using my drones to control hex totems. In particular, Devour Hope was like the big not off meta, but like the different one that I tried to use to get some more lethality. The whole idea being if I throw a drone on top of the totem and I don't run too far away from the totem, but enough nearby that I can capitalize on it, you can always see the drone going from active to scouting. You can pull up your Find My iPhone personal radar thing, and if a survivor's in that radius, you will see them in that radius. And if the drone disappeared from where you put your totem, someone recently had interacted in that area to disable your drone, which means they're probably trying to get that totem out of the way too. So it just adds enough extra delay where if you're trying to protect your hex totem, you have a lot of time to get there and make sure that you're protecting it. I had a lot of success on the PTB with Devour Hope. I haven't tried too much more, but I think the first thing I'm going to personally be going for is something like a Devour Hope and Undying. I have 2 totems that I can then kind of monitor. It gives me more flexibility, more room to work around the map. I don't know if Thrill of the Hunt's good enough, but it does slow down. I think it slows down cleansing hex totems a bit more. And so like if I combine that, sure, it's another hex perk that isn't too great, but it once again, at least for the time being, can protect those hex totems a bit better. I'd argue that's probably not worth a perk slot, and doing something like Devour Hope, Undying, and 2 information perks is probably good. Heck, even if you want to chuck in Noed at the back end and see how that goes. I found she had a lot of success with guarding hex totems, and I'm kind of interested to try that and see if it works. Now, in terms of add-ons, there's really only a couple notable ones that I really want to go over. And it's actually the first one at the top here. It's this ultrasonic trap speaker. It is a brown add-on, which is very common. And this essentially says survivors with a claw trap attached destroy pallets when fast vaulting them. That's pretty good. That's pretty strong for a brown add-on. And if the claw trap's battery is dead, it will be destroyed along with the pallet. Worst case scenario, if they still got a claw trap on them and they choose to vault a downed pallet, it just breaks. Like, you kind of have a pseudo Spirit Fury Spirit Fury. There's another perk that does it. But my point being, like, you basically get to minimize the value of what pallets can do for survivors on a brown add-on. If you were to combine this with something like, you know, Spirit Fury Enduring and really make pallets just irrelevant, that's pretty good. And considering this is a brown add-on, I'd argue that's actually pretty strong. Now granted, I will say a lot of these add-ons do stuff, but I think this is like pretty strong for a brown add-on. I think this is going to be pretty staple across people's builds. All the other ones, like, you know, they're good beneficial effects. I'm not going to say they aren't, but this absolutely seems like a clear outlier of strength that people should run. Additionally, another one that I saw would be really, really useful are a couple of these down here, but this brown noise generator as a green add-on in particular. And its survivors inside the area of effect of a drone are oblivious, and that lingers for 15 seconds. I think that matters, mostly because if you guys have watched my videos or seen other videos of people talking about the Skull Merchant, you'll know that the drone making you undetectable is kind of a not very elegant solution to the whole stealth idea that she kind of doesn't have. And it has to do with the whole like terror radius volume increasing and suddenly decreasing, like absent like a couple seconds later, which you would know that the undetectable activated in the drone, so most likely she is right around you. You need to get up and start running. But I think the oblivious is a lot better. I think it's a much more elegant solution to the fact that you don't give away a terror radius to people that are inside your drone. I wish that this effect were more base kit. However, I think this is an absolutely phenomenal add-on. Now, granted, I don't play a lot with add-ons, so I don't know if green add-ons are like consistently able to be run on builds unless you've invested a lot of blood points and you can, you know, run it back to back with plenty of these stocked up. But this one also seems very strong as a good outlier for strength. Also, at this point now, there's a couple other good ones. Like here, you get exhausted for a few seconds. If you haven't been exhausted before, like all of a sudden now my dead hard doesn't work, but it's only 3 seconds. I mean, it's not impossible to get back. If you drop a pallet for safety and start walking, you will get your exhaustion back probably by the time that she breaks it or gets around it. So just keep that in mind. Some of these are also really good, but those two that I listed earlier, I think are a lot more staple in people's builds, I would say. Lastly, you'll notice a lot of these have things with, for example, like warning skill checks are different. Like you don't get a warning, the skill check size reduces, and that interestingly combines with the other Eerie add-on here, where manually activating a drone will make it emit a terror radius. I don't know how this one works, but I thought this might be really gimmicky for some kind of weird, you know, skill check oriented build, overwhelming presence. I really don't know other ones that go with it because I don't really play. I think it's like Doctor's the one that usually does skill check manipulation. So just something that could happen. Same thing, you got these, which are like interesting haste effects. So just stuff that could be more interesting, gimmicky to look at. I mean, this one too, like everyone starts with a claw trap. As long as you check your, you know, radar, you basically got built-in lethal pursuer off the rip of the game. But these add-ons, as cool as they are, and I'd love to talk about how strong they can be, like, you know, hindered in a drone status, that's pretty significant. Like, you will probably go down from losing movement speed, but these are also hard add-ons to get, and I wouldn't expect you to consistently be able to run them. But green, I think, is like at the limit of possible, and this oblivious one is really good, and especially at the brown level, just being able to pop pallets when people have a claw trap is pretty good. I would just argue that is pretty good. In terms of perks, like I said, hex totems I think are the way to go. The 3-gen play style, let me know if you guys think it's, you know, dead or not. I feel like it's still viable. In particular, with the new perks that are coming out, ignore the fact that they're not synced. That's really bothering me. Game of Foot, even though it's in particular with just your obsession, which I think is a very limiting component to it, the fact that if I were to kick a generator and then I get a 5% haste for 10 seconds to catch up to the person I was chasing, I don't think is a terrible replacement for Eruption. I mean, it's definitely not good. Like, this is nowhere near any slowdown. This is just some extra lethality to the fact that when I choose to kick a gen, I can possibly try to close the distance on Survivor. I can't imagine that's the best approach to fixing, or not fixing, the best approach to doing some more gen slowdown. I imagine there's another perk that replaces Eruption better. I don't really play the playstyle, so that's why I'm not. I'm just trying to be hopeful for some of the new perks that come out. Leverage with the healing speeds. I wanted your guys' opinion on this too. If, you know, something for the fact that the healing speed stackable effect, if you were to add, you know, Sloppy Butcher or Gift of Pain and like Colrophobia, will healing just become a nightmare? And, you know, for example, playing like, I'm not a big fan of Legion, but there's certain characters where if you try to get people injured like that pretty frequently, it just becomes a nightmare and so much time delay to heal that you'd rather just play the game injured. Which, I mean, granted, Plague does that just built in with her kit, but I was wondering if you guys thought that this might be some possibility for a build, just because, I mean, yeah, we're not going to get up to these big numbers, but realistically, for each hook you get, I would say we could expect, you know, reasonably everyone to be average 15 to 20% slowed down from the effects of leverage. I think is a very reasonable amount of slowdown, like 3 or 4 hooks for them to be affected by. Combine that with Sloppy Butcher or Colrophobia, and now you have this nightmare of how long it takes to heal, and, you know, just some ideas. Thwack, I love the name, it's not good. I don't know. I've really give it enough thought to try and figure out if the wall palette breaking and getting auras is relevant. I can't figure it out. Maybe you guys can, but that's actually about it. I just wanted to go over what I thought would be good on the Skull Merchant. I think the Hex Totem playstyle was really strong from my personal experience. I would love to see it continue to be successful. However, we'll wait and see once the PTB comes out, what people come up with, what people are thinking. So if you guys have any ideas, please let me know down in the comments below. I would greatly appreciate that. If you want to see me playing her, assuming she comes out, assuming she comes out around the time that I stream on starting Tuesday, for the next few days, next week, I will be live on Twitch, 12 to 2 o'clock Central, probably go a little bit past that, but feel free to say, hey, swing by, let me know you're from YouTube, and watch me get rolled as the Skull Merchant, because she isn't good. That'll wrap up everything that I was going to say, ignoring this plethora of what's describing her power. A lot of cool add-ons towards the end, but I'm not going to make these like a relevant part of a build. I've never thought that Eerie's are consistently bringable unless you've got blood points or hours committed to the character. So that's about it. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and take care, everybody. Sorry for a little bit longer video. I wanted it to be short, but I figured it was enough good talking points. But yeah, take it easy. Peace.